Echoes of traditions. Once upon a time in a village called Umuofia, there lived a man named Okonkwo. He was a strong and respected warrior, known for his bravery and fierceness in battle. In Umuofia, the people followed their own customs and traditions, passed down from their ancestors for generations. But one day strangers came to their land. They were white people, different from anyone the villagers had ever seen before. These strangers brought with them strange customs and beliefs, and they called themselves colonizers. They said they had come to bring civilization to the villagers. The white people built a church in the village and started teaching the people about their religion. They introduced new laws and rules, and they even set up a government that the villagers had to obey. The old ways of the village started to change, and many people began to follow the white man's customs. But Okonkwo refused to accept these changes. He believed strongly in the traditions of his people and did not want to see them disappear. He spoke out against the white man's influence, urging his fellow villagers to resist. Despite his efforts, the white man's influence continued to spread. More and more people in the village converted to Christianity, and the old customs began to fade away. Okonkwo watched helplessly as everything he had known and loved started to crumble around him. As the white man's presence grew stronger, tensions in the village began to rise. Some villagers, like Okonkwo, resisted fiercely, while others embraced the new ways. The once united community began to fracture, and conflicts arose between those who clung to tradition and those who embraced change. In the midst of this turmoil, Okonkwo found himself torn between his loyalty to his culture and his desire to protect his family. He knew that the world around him was changing rapidly, and he feared what the future might hold for his people. But Okonkwo refused to give up hope. He vowed to continue fighting for the traditions of his ancestors, no matter the cost. Little did he know, his greatest challenges were yet to come, as the clash between old and new threatened to tear his village apart. As tensions continued to simmer in Umuofia, Okonkwo found himself increasingly isolated in his resistance to the white man's influence. Many of his fellow villagers, including some of his own family members, had embraced Christianity and the new way of life brought by the colonizers. Despite the growing divide in the village, Okonkwo remained steadfast in his beliefs. He continued to speak out against the white man's presence, rallying those who still held on to the traditions of their ancestors. But as the white man's influence spread, so did their power. They began to impose harsher laws and punishments on those who resisted their authority. Okonkwo witnessed his people being treated unfairly, their land taken away, and their customs mocked and disregarded. In the midst of this turmoil, Okonkwo's own family faced challenges. His eldest son, Nwoya, had converted to Christianity, much to Okonkwo's dismay. Their relationship strained as Nwoya embraced the new religion and distanced himself from his father's beliefs. Meanwhile, the village council debated how to respond to the encroaching presence of the white man. Some advocated for peaceful cooperation, believing it was the only way to ensure the survival of their community. Others, like Okonkwo, argued for resistance, refusing to surrender their way of life to outsiders. As tensions reached a boiling point, a series of events unfolded that would change the fate of Umuofia forever. The white man's government imposed heavy taxes on the villagers, forcing many into debt and poverty. Some of Okonkwo's closest allies were arrested and imprisoned for speaking out against the injustices they faced. In the face of mounting oppression, Okonkwo knew that something had to be done. He gathered a group of like-minded warriors, determined to defend their land and their way of life. But as they prepared to take a stand against the white man's forces, Okonkwo couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that gnawed at him. As Okonkwo and his fellow warriors prepared for the looming confrontation, tensions in Umuofia reached a fever pitch. The village was divided between those who supported the resistance and those who believed that cooperation with the white man was the only path forward. Despite the risks, Okonkwo remained resolute in his determination to defend his people's way of life. He knew that the coming battle would be fraught with danger, but he was willing to risk everything for the sake of preserving their traditions and independence. As the days passed, whispers of rebellion spread throughout the village. The white man's authorities grew increasingly nervous, deploying more soldiers to keep order and suppress any signs of dissent. But Okonkwo and his followers refused to back down, their resolve only strengthening in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, Noi wrestled with conflicting loyalties. Despite his conversion to Christianity, he still harbored deep love and respect for his father and the traditions of his people. Caught between two worlds, Noi grappled with the weight of his choices, unsure of where his true allegiance lay. As tensions escalated, Okonkwo knew that the time for action was drawing near. He called upon the bravest and most skilled warriors in the village, rallying them to his cause with impassioned speeches and promises of victory. Together, they honed their weapons and devised strategies to outwit their adversaries. But even as they prepared for battle, Okonkwo couldn't shake the nagging sense of doubt that lingered in the back of his mind. What if their efforts were in vain? What if they were doomed to fail against the might of the colonial forces? Despite his fears, Okonkwo refused to entertain the thought of defeat. He drew strength from the courage and determination of his fellow warriors, knowing that they fought not just for themselves, but for the future of their village and their way of life. As the tension reached its peak, the clash between the villagers and the colonial forces seemed inevitable. Okonkwo and his warriors stood ready, their resolve unyielding despite the overwhelming odds against them. But just as the first shots were about to be fired, something unexpected happened. An elder from the village, wise and respected by all, stepped forward with a message of peace. With words of wisdom and diplomacy, he urged both sides to seek understanding and reconciliation rather than resorting to violence. His words struck a chord with the villagers and even some among the colonial forces. Slowly tensions began to ease, and a dialogue was opened between the two sides. Through patience and mutual respect, they found common ground and forged a new path forward together. In the end, the conflict was averted, and Umuofia was spared from the devastation of war. The villagers learned that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the courage to seek peace and understanding, even in the face of adversity. The moral of the story is that while it is natural to stand up for what we believe in, it is also important to seek peaceful solutions to conflict whenever possible. By coming together with open hearts and minds, we can overcome even the greatest challenges and build a better future for all. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for more educative and captivating folktale stories. See you in the next story.